Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa natubu ilayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shurri anfusina wa sayyiati a'malina. May yahdihillahu fahuwa al-muhtad wa may yudlil falan tajida lahu waliyan murshida. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. We praise Allah, we seek His help and we seek His guidance. Anyone who's been guided by Allah, he is indeed guided. I bear witness there's only one true God and that Muhammad is His slave and His servant. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, fear Allah as He should be feared and die not except in the state of al-Islam, in the state of submission. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صدق الله العظيم. In Surah Fatiha, we recite it 17 times a day. And we do this dua that, oh Allah, we worship you and we alone ask you for help. Guide us on the straight path. If you look at Islam, it's not about I, It's about us. Guide us on the straight path. So we are one ummah. And the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam very beautifully said, we are like one body. When one part hurts, the rest of the body feels the pain. In Surah Ar-Ra'd, Allah says He will not change the condition of a people until they change it themselves. Once again, the Quran is talking about us as the people, as the ummah. A very challenging times for the Muslims today. But if you go back in history, the Western world, the Western powers, majority of the Muslim countries were colonized by the Western powers. After the end of the Western World War II, the appetite for colonization, it went out of favor. Only 4 Muslim countries were not colonized: Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iran, and Afghanistan. But unfortunately, at the end of the Second World War, we have one country left that's colonized by the Western powers. It's Palestine. And as soon as the colonization started, the PR machine started, and it's going on to this day. A land without a people, for a people without a land. An alarming slogan for people living in the land without a people. In the 1960s, the Prime Minister of Israel, Levi Eshkol, said, "We want the dowry, but we reject the bride." That has been the official policy. They just want the land and rid Palestine of Palestinians. We just want the dowry, we don't want the bride. And since then, a slow, under the radar genocide has been taking place in Palestine. And this last 1 year, it blew up into social media and the world media. The Western media, not so much. They have normalized the killing of innocent civilian Palestinians. 45 to 50,000 people have been killed, mostly civilians, women, and children, since this war started. Killing civilians is never okay. Taking hostages is never okay. Occupation is never okay. But killing babies and children is never, never, never okay. More than 50 years ago, Malcolm X said, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Subhanallah, not much has changed. The occupiers want the world to believe that they are being oppressed while they're committing genocide. The Western media, the politicians, they just want to dehumanize the Palestinians. A presidential candidate at the convention said, Israel has the right to self-defense. Let me finish that sentence. While it is committing genocide. Israel has the right to defend itself while it is committing genocide. See, we as a nation, we have lost our moral clarity. We lecture other nations about human rights, but we support the Israeli government's gross violation of the Geneva Conventions. The hypocrisy and the double standards of a foreign policy brings shame. We oppose the occupation of Ukraine, but for over 75 years, We have given Israel the green light, the bullets and the bombs to hurt Palestinians. Now it is going to the level of genocide. A superpower cannot tell its client state for the last 6 months. We've been talking about ceasefire. For some reason, the ceasefire never takes place. If you're paying attention after the summer, all the the anti-war, pro-Palestinian in college campuses suddenly were muted. Because more than 50 years ago, the English novelist George Orwell said, the further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. So they don't want the pro-Palestinian voices because the truth is hurting. But let's not be silenced. I want us to raise our words, not our voices, because it is rain that grows flowers, not thunder. In Surah Taha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands Musa alayhi salam, go to Pharaoh, for he has transgressed all bounds, but speak to him gently. Perhaps he may take heed or fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So criticizing Israel for the human rights violation is our right. Today's Zionism is deeply nationalistic and largely unconcerned about the human rights of non-Jews. Do not be fooled into thinking criticizing Israel or Zionism is being anti-Semitic. That's like saying criticizing Saudi Arabia for its human rights violation is Islamophobic. Ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah. The Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam warned us against asabiya. He never demonized anybody. So tribalism, anti-Semitism, racism, it's not in our DNA, it's not in our sunnah. Because there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of Jews who are shocked at what's going on with the Palestinians. And they are marching against the policies of Israel. Jewish Voices for Peace is one of the most effective organizations fighting for the rights of Palestinians in the United States. The Orthodox Jews are also openly challenging the Israeli government's policies against the Palestinians. In Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O believers, stand firm for justice as witnesses for Allah, if it might be against yourself, your parents, or your close relatives, be they rich or poor. Stand firm for justice even against the United States. Because it's our country that's giving the state of Israel $18 billion since this war started in Gaza. $18 billion. If we are only 3% of the population, 3% of $18 billion is $540 million. So the Muslims, the tax-paying Muslim citizens of the United States, we have funded that war by $540 million that is killing the Palestinians with 2,000-pound bombs that our tax dollars are paying for. So what is our responsibility? What is our civic duty? Where do you see Muslims fitting in this paradigm? Can we just sit idle and do nothing? It's our government using our tax dollars to fund this genocide. We cannot remain silent, and we cannot be ineffective in our communications. The presidential election is only 2 weeks away, the 5th of November. Are we going to exercise our right to vote Are we going to exercise our rights? Our choices are limited. Should I vote for Iblis or should I vote for Shaitan? Let's not forget the lesser of two evils. Let's fight for the greater good. Because power concedes nothing unless you demand it. No one gives up power. No one. You have to demand to take away power. The American-Israeli pact has lots of power, and they spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year for both Republican and the Democrat side so they can stay in power. They will not give it up easily. So can we find a coalition to carry our struggle forward? Can we leverage our votes to make changes that we seek? What do we do when our choices are flawed? There are millions of working class people, young people, who do not support this war. Can we build a coalition? The risk of not participating is way too high. Doing nothing, not voicing your position, makes you equally responsible. Oh, the politics is so dirty, I cannot get involved. Yes, sir. Yes, sister, you are involved. You are paying taxes. You live in this country. It is your responsibility. Just not voting sometimes allows people with weak character, who have prejudice in their heart, who have discriminatory policies in their minds or attitudes, they get elected very easily because we are complacent. And we cannot limit ourselves to just the foreign policy. We have to care about America. The homelessness population is going up. We have to care about that. What's going on with Social Security? What's going on with our health care policy? What's going on with the environment? The uninsured. These are all responsibilities of all American citizens. The Rasul ﷺ himself was an immigrant. And he reassured the people of Medina when lots of Meccans migrated to Medina. Because change can be scary. He tried to encourage them to be cohesive, to find common ground. The immigrants, the Muhajirun and the Ansar. He tried to find common ground between them. Because you have to think as one when you live in the country. So develop a sense of belonging. He encouraged everybody living in Medina to become active, to find ways to learn to live in the society. And when you live in a society for a long period of time, you have to feel a sense of belonging to that land, that you belong to America. And this attachment can only become stronger when we engage with the issues. The Social Security is going to affect you. You've got to engage in it. Can it be just bystanders? Because you are paying Social Security. Will it be properly funded when you turn 65? After Fatah Makkah, after the conquest of Makkah, many of the immigrants, including the Rasul ﷺ, they made Medina their home. And the Rasul ﷺ was buried in Medina. I think the majority of us over here are going to be buried in the United States. So this is our home. And voting is our right. It's not a declaration of faith. Voting is not a declaration of faith. It is about leveraging the change that you'd like to see. Even when the choices are flawed, voting is building a coalition of diverse working class voters, civil rights organizations, labor unions, climate change organizations, progressives. We have lots in common with these groups. We can help them where they need our help. In return, they will help us where we need. 7 major labor unions and the NAACP, they have come out publicly against supplying weapons to Israel. Can we reach out to them? 7 labor unions and the NAACP. So we should not be restricted to our algorithm, and we forget that there are others out there. Millions and millions of working class people, they don't want their money going to war. They want to pay their electric bill. They are not supporting America's unconditional support for Israel. And we need to get involved in local politics. We cannot just do foreign policy. Housing crisis. Many things that affect Americans. The present White House has left our community with a painful and a heavy burden. So how do you vote for somebody who has supplied the weapons for some of the worst atrocities in recent memory? What is your red line? Do you just dream of disengaging? But power does not work that way. The reality is the anti-war movement has not built up enough power to challenge the IPAC's influence in Washington. The politicians, they see more risk than reward in opposing IPAC. The risk is that I'll lose my seat. And so we have to think strategically. Lots of movements, it takes a while for it to catch on. In the 30s and 40s, America was segregated. A lot of politicians publicly said segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Where is segregation today? Movements change politicians. And the time is ripe. That's only when the movements went against the political class. So the apartheid in South Africa was supported by the United States and the United Kingdom. But the pressure got so high that the politicians had to change, and apartheid in South Africa went away. And inshallah, I do dua, say Ameen, that the apartheid in Israel will also end in our lifetime. So we have to build inside and outside infrastructure. We cannot be just among ourselves, because many people uphold justice. It's not just the Muslim community that's wanting justice. And we do outside of the ballot box is crucial. Not just on voting day we go to vote. We build alliances throughout the year. And walking away from elections is allowing AIPAC to win. Because they say, oh, it's so difficult to us to win, we're going to just walk away. And that's what they want. And we should deny them that opportunity. There are only 3 Muslim congressmen, 2 women, 1 man. But in the Jewish community, their population is almost like ours, between 3.5–4% of Muslims, 3.5–4% Jews in America. About the same. But they have 10 senators and 27 congressmen and women. And we only have 3. So statistics, we can change them if we want to by voting. The decisions are made by those who vote. The decisions are made by those who vote. I got an email from one of your board members yesterday, and I was looking at it. The voter turnout in the primaries in August in Washington State. In the primaries, only 12% of the registered voters who were Muslims showed up to vote. 12%. We were the bottom. It's usually the Latino community or the Asian Pacific community or the African American community That's at the lower end of the voting. The Caucasian community, the white community, 44% voted. But the Muslims only 12%. And there was one Muslim sister running for Congress. But only 12% showed up. Allah will not change the condition of a people unless they change it themselves. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد اللهم بارك على محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. I'm going to tell you a story about this young man named Hassan Hathout. He graduated in high school in the 1940s in Egypt, and he was a valedictorian. In the 1940s, Egypt was colonized by the British. So they decided to send 2 valedictorian students to Oxford University. And so Hassan Hathout got on a ship in Alexandria, Egypt, to go to the UK. When he ended up in London, Oxford University sent a taxi to pick him up. Hassan Hathout had never ridden in a car, and he was very impressed. He promised himself that someday he would buy a car. When he finished his education, he returned back to Egypt. The Egyptian authorities assigned him 3 villages to be the doctor of. Being a young man, making good money, being single, he saved up money and bought his first used car. He was very proud of it. He washed it, he waxed it, took good care of it. One day at the clinic, the phone rang. When he answered, a woman was crying. He said, "What's the matter?" She said, "My husband's been complaining of chest pain, and he might not make it. Doc, can you please hurry up?" He said, "Not a problem, I have a car. I'll be there in 10, 12 minutes. He grabs his medical bag, puts in the car, and starts driving. About the same time as he's driving, school lets out. Kids come out, they get excited to see a car. It's in the 1940s. So they start running behind the car. One young man gets excited, takes a rock and throws it at the car. It hits the windshield. The windshield breaks. Hassan Hathout, from the corner of his eye, saw the young man. He slammed the brakes, put the car in park. He was going to teach this young man a lesson. He gets out of the car and starts chasing him. The young man, fearing for his life, starts running behind the alleyways to get away from Hassan Hathout. After about a 15-minute chase, Hassan Hathout could not catch him. He's out of breath. He starts walking back to the car. He picks up some broken pieces of glass. He says, "I better get going." And he drives to the patient's home. And he knocks on the door. A woman opens up and she's crying. She's got red eyes. And he says, "I'm the doctor. Where is your husband?" And she says, "My husband died 10 minutes ago." Hassan Hathout said, "I learned a very valuable lesson. When I left my clinic, I was on a mission. My mission was to save a human life. And something silly happened. My windshield broke, and I got distracted." The sisters of maps and the brothers of maps, did your windshield break? Are you distracted? What's your goal in life? What is your goal in life? Are you distracted? What is your goal in life? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring you to the United States? For those of us who are immigrants and the children of immigrants. What's the end game? We are here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us for a purpose. And so let's not get distracted. What is our purpose? So we have a circle of concern. Yes, I'm concerned about Gaza. Yes, I'm concerned about what's going on in Sudan. Yes, I'm concerned about the Rohingyas. Yes, I'm also concerned about the homeless population in the United States. Yes, I'm also concerned about Yemen. That's my circle of concern. What's my circle of influence? What are you influencing? Yes, we have concerns. What are you doing to the homeless population? Are you feeding them? Are you clothing them? Are you supporting the soup kitchen? What are you doing for Gaza? Are you sending them money? Are you doing dua for them? Are you a medical personnel? Can you volunteer? Because they have camps set up in Egypt to help the victims of the war. So many of us have circle of concern. We just are lacking in the circle of influence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with wealth. Share some of it. Not the 2.5%. That's the minimum. Times are very strange for the Muslims today. And they're not normal. We're under a lot of stress with what's going on in Lebanon, what's going on in Palestine. And so we cannot just do the minimum, said, I did mine. That's not how it works. So we're only such a small minority community. It was only 313 people at Badr who fought the Quraysh. You don't need big numbers. You need strong iman. So what is your lack? What is your circle of influence? That's what I want to talk to you about. So my khutbah is going to come to an end. I always like to say, what's the takeaway from the khutbah? What are the talking points? So I want to give you a few ideas. Let's learn the history of Palestine. Vast majority of us have a very small understanding of the history of Palestine. The Isra and Miraj took place in Palestine. Let's call our representatives at the state level, at the federal level. Let's write letters to them. It's your tax dollars that's providing indiscriminate bombing of Muslims in Gaza. Write letters to the editor. If you see an article in the paper that's biased, write letters. Even if it's not printed, that email that you sent is forwarded to the author of the article. Because I know that, because I've had authors of the article call me to discuss my point of view. We are not merely bystanders. There are so many books written by Palestinians about Palestine, about the struggles in Palestine. Let's support these authors, buy their books. That's how you support the authors who are telling the story. Buy some books. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your co-workers. Lots of good people. Allah is my witness. Last night I am in Orlando at 6 p.m. I saw my neighbor, a Jewish man. I went and talked to him. I told him I'm coming to MAPS to do a khutbah about what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. And he said, you're right, Atif, they're committing a genocide. That's my neighbor, yesterday at 6 o'clock. Talk to your neighbors you don't know. It's your job to school them. There are lots of good Americans who don't know what is going on. It's our job. So we have to engage America. We have to think. There's Martin Luther King and there is Malcolm X. MashaAllah, both of them did great work. But I want to concentrate on MLK. He worked within the system, and that's why we had civil rights legislation. All those black and brown faces I see who immigrated to the United States is because of the civil rights legislation that was passed through the help of Martin Luther King. He worked within the system to change the system. And that's the role model we have. We have to work within the system to change the system. So voting is less than 2 weeks away. Subhanallah, that's the absolute minimum you can do. The absolute minimum. So Vote your conscience. I'm not telling you who to vote. I'm saying vote your conscience. Show that you participate in this city, in this state, and in this country, that you are a tax-paying citizen, that you are exercising your rights. So I do dua that Allah bring justice to the oppressed and send them help. Oh Allah, give those who are suffering strength, patience, and Jannah for their trial. If they die, let it be La ilaha illallah on their tongue. May Allah help us to put our intentions into action. May Allah help us become better civic-minded in this country. May Allah help our community to be a shining example to the rest of America. May Allah protect us from laziness. May Allah guide us to be better Muslims. May Allah guide us to benefit humanity. Oh Allah, you are my Lord. There is no Lord but you. You created me and I am your servant. I uphold your covenant and your promise to the best of my ability. I seek refuge in you in the faults of my own doing. I acknowledge the blessings you've showered upon me and acknowledge my shortcomings. So forgive me, O Allah, for none forgives sins but you. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifoon. Wa salamun al mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا ومن الليل فتهجد به نافلة لك عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا وقل رب أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق واجعل لي من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا وننزل من القرآن ما هو شفاء ورحمة للمؤمنين ولا يزيد الظالمين إلا خسارا الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا سيماهم في وجوههم من أثر السجود ذلك مثلهم في التوراة ومثلهم في الإنجيل كزرع أخرج شطأه فآزره فاستغلظ فاستوى على سوقه يعجب الزراع ليغيظ بهم الكفار وعد الله الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات منهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. So after listening to this khutbah, an inspiring khutbah inshallah, in case you are wondering what to do, how to vote, and you're looking for some guidance, we have an event tonight by local organization. It's not by MAPS, it's by American Muslim Advancement Council. You can bring your even ballot. Inshallah ta'ala, they will guide you and you can ask any question, inshallah ta'ala. So they will go, and it's happening after Maghrib at 6:30 p.m. here at MAPS. Also, speaking of elections, our own election commission at MAPS, they have also sent a schedule for our board elections. So next critical date is November 3rd, Sunday, when all the nomination forms have to be submitted by then to participate in that. And also tomorrow is MAPS Mohsin lunch social at 12 noon. MAPS Convert brothers and sisters are having their socials on Sunday at 5:15 p.m. to 8 p.m. In 2 separate rooms. And also fall family movie night is happening on October 31st on Thursday night for kids movie night starting at 6 p.m. And then early November we have MAPS MCRC Golden Times and Community Clinic coming up. And all the fall registration, all the classes are open for fall. Please go to the website and register. Barakallahu feekum.